Welcome back to Killer Fun, where we explore the intersection of crime and entertainment every other week. I'm Christy.
And I'm Jackie.
And we're so glad that you're back with us today. Today, we are talking about Stay Close. Thanks for letting us take a little winter break.
Yes, we needed that.
You would think after all this time we'd come back super prepared, but life. So I know you didn't get a chance to watch this.
Not at all.
But it's okay.
I didn't.
It's okay. So you get to be like the audience that talks back to me. So instead of all of you guys, when you know something on a podcast or you have a thought about a podcast and you're listening to it and you start talking, because it's like the closest you ever get to like being a ghost.
Yeah, right?
Is because they can't hear you.
They can't hear you.
But you get to be like, have that experience, but also talk back and actually maybe get answers.
Yes,
So,
exactly. It's actually kind of fun, I think. And it's not like I want to just use it as an excuse to not be prepared in the future, but I am looking forward to seeing how this goes and like to experience it, like our listeners who might be listening and haven't watched it.
That's right. You get to be the voice of our listeners.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's fine. So this is one of the newest Harlen Coben novel adaptations on Netflix. He's got a deal for like 18.
Wow.
Like a ton of shows based on his novels. And this isn't a former adult dancer who's pulled back into a life that she thought she'd left behind.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Ooh, and it is interesting. Yeah, we'll get there. So let's the cast. So the main lady, Megan/Callie. She's got two names. She has a name, and then Megan is her name, and Callie is the name she left behind.
Okay. All right. Got it.
So she had a former life that she disappeared from. So Cush Jumbo is Megan/Callie, and she's done mostly TV shows, notably The Good Wife in the U.S., a couple of films, some British television. Richard Armitage is Ray. And he's had roles in both films and TV, but he was Thorin in the Hobbit movies. So that's probably like his biggest.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up. I'm looking up the cast to see them.
Adorable.
Yeah, he looks somewhat familiar.
Yeah. Well, in the Hobbit, he would have had like a lot more like facial hair and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. But he's adorable. He's so cute. Sarah Parrish is Lorraine, and she's a British TV staple. And I remember her from Broadchurch. But she's been in tons of like British television and stuff like that. She's a familiar face, but one of those that you might not immediately know where you've seen her before, but you've seen her and you know it.
Yeah.
One of those. Same with James Nesbitt as Michael Brom, another really British heavy hitter on television. And he was also in the Hobbit movies. So
yes, he is far more familiar to me. I'm wondering what show it is that he is in that made him so familiar to me. Because he's like, I know him. Like, oh, that guy.
Yeah. Oh, that guy. Yeah.
That guy, I really
That guy's
know.
great. I know that guy. But from what?
But from what?
Yeah.
It must be a movie and not a TV show or something.
Okay.
It must be. I'm like looking through his catalog here, and I just don't know. I don't know what it was. But he's always good.
Yeah. And then, of course, Eddie Izzard.
I love him so much.
Is Harry Sutton. And we see him only very briefly, like a single scene for a few seconds in this first episode. But he's had many television and Sorry.
Yeah, she recently. I say recently. Pandemic has changed my concept of time.
Right.
It's been a little while, but it's still recent that she changed her pronouns.
Right, yes. She has had many television and film roles, but best known for her stand-up comedy.
My favorite, Dress to Kill.
Yeah.
That was the best. Oh, I could watch it over and over and over again.
Awesome.
It's just out of this world. And we got to see Eddie live.
Yes, you did. Like,
oh my gosh.
Not shortly before the pandemic,
It was
right?
shortly before the pandemic. I mean, right under the buzzer kind of thing. And it was awesome. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yes. I confused the pronouns because Eddie goes by she, but plays Harry, which is a he.
He. Mm-hmm.
in this particular episode. But yes,
Yep.
She was delightful.
Yeah. Oh, she's
in
the best.
this role, and like so like it's not funny, but still so like warm, and you really want to root for the character.
Yeah,
which
like
is
a charm. A charm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna recap.
Yes,
this.
recap. I cannot wait. Like I'm sitting here on pins and needles. Like you've got to tell me what happened.
Oh, so much. All right, so clubs, they're full of fun and the opportunity to make poor choices.
True.
And both are in evidence in the club that we see most in this show, Vipers.
Okay.
So Carlton, a man at the club, goes missing, and the police aren't terribly worried about it. He's young, in uni, as the Brits say. Yeah. He's in uni, but, you know, they're not terribly worried. This is a thing that happens. You know, kids, they get distracted and they don't answer their parents and whatever.
Yep.
But the father is rich and insistent that the police look more closely into it. And it isn't until the date that Carlton went missing is revised a little bit. So they talked to the police on one day, but he actually went missing the day before. That rings a bell with the detective, Michael.
Okay.
And he's suddenly very interested because there was one case in his career that he was unable to solve. And the date that Carlton goes missing and the date that is involved with this cold case coincide.
Interesting.
That really gets his attention.
Okay.
So Megan is preparing for a long-awaited bachelorette party. 16 years, 3 kids, and a long-term relationship of waiting.
Oh, wow.
But all of that waiting really couldn't separate her from her former life. Someone knows her new name, her address, and her deepest, darkest secrets.
Oh.
Ray is a talented photographer who has been reduced to demeaning gigs after a heartbreak long ago. He took photos in the woods from the night of Carlton's disappearance, and that makes him a target for someone. Very few people are being honest about their whereabouts or their intentions, and it makes everything that much more complicated.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
So, yes. It is based on a book, as we mentioned.
Yes.
Harlen Coben, who we've talked about before. Of course, all of the Harlen Coben adaptations are set in England or Britain at large.
Yeah.
Yeah. But all of Harlen Coben's books are set in the United States, primarily in New Jersey area.
Okay. That's interesting.
I guess that's where he lives. And there are a few little changes that Megan is very dissatisfied in the book and much less dissatisfied in the movie. There's a small amount of dissatisfaction about the way things are and maybe missing a former, more exciting life, but not really that much.
Not like longing for days past kind of thing.
Not longing for it. In the show, maybe more of that in the movie. In the television show. It's not a movie.
Yeah.
Just because I watched all 8 episodes almost in a row doesn't make it a movie.
Binge this. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to be cooking dinner and just binging things.
That's
what I
should.
do. I put up my iPad, like, in the right spot. And,
Yeah, as you should.
It's coming.
Yeah. Headphones in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes the kitchen, thankfully, is a little actually segregated enough that I can usually just let it play, which is nice. I don't know what it is. I don't like to wear. I have great over the head. I like those, but still they get kind of. I don't know. Like I like open air.
Yeah, that's fine. That's preference.
That's a complete aside.
Yeah,
I digress.
Fine. Yeah, and in this, they're in the book. They're all kind of exploring the dark side of the American dream, which obviously they're not
doing in
England. Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I can understand why they would change it. I mean, if it's going to be produced in that area, it would make more sense to make it relevant to their community. So,
of course,
I get that. But you're right. You have to kind of get rid of that dark side of the American dream, and which is a big issue here right now, like for our generations, like the older Gen Zs. I would say young millennial, older Gen Z, and especially middle Gen Z right now is like going through some existential stuff with the American dream.
Like they're like, we're never going to be able to afford houses.
Yeah.
So critics seem to like this a bit better than audiences, at least according to Rotten Tomatoes, which I found also a little surprising because I liked this, but there's some fair observations.
Okay,
critics were about 91%.
Ooh, that's pretty
approval,
good.
which is great. Audiences on Rotten Tomatoes, closer to 60%.
Interesting. Why?
There's
tell me.
Fair observations.
Tell me why.
So let's see. In the critics, see you for the next episode, plus the 6th after that, and there's no point in pretending otherwise. Lucy Mangan of The Guardian, which I agree.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it's interesting enough that even if you weren't like super invested in it or you didn't super love the characters, you know it's only 8 episodes. And the next one's just going to start auto-playing, so you're just going to watch them all.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So that's fair. The San Francisco Chronicle, Chris Fogger, Stay Close builds the puzzle slowly through subliminal editing of past violence and through the silences in what the characters don't say to each other, empty spaces that invite us to imagine what happened to these people all those years ago, which I appreciate.
See, I like that.
I do too. Alex Moreland of the National World, Stay Close is compelling in the way that it makes you want to keep going with it, if not compelling in the way that you'd remember it in much detail a few months down the line. Super fair.
Okay.
Okay, so I think Harlen Coben has a style.
Yeah.
Which usually when you write a whole lot of books, there's some similarities in them. If you like those similarities, you're going to like everything that person puts out. If you don't like those similarities, you're not going to be such a fan.
Okay.
I mean, and that's the way it is. If you like Danielle Steele novels,
you're going to like Danielle Steele novels.
Exactly. You like them all because they all have kind of similar themes and similar stuff going on. And I think Harlen Coben's kind of the same way, though not as I hope he doesn't take offense at being compared to best-selling author Danielle Steele.
Right. But yeah,
but they're very different genres, but they both have a specific genre.
Right.
So
it sounds to me, I'm hearing that they're easily digestible.
Uh-huh. Yep. Exactly.
And it does sound like, okay, we have watched, or we both watched a previous one of his that he's done.
Yeah.
And I think I remember that it was something that you really could follow along while doing something else like cooking or whatever.
Yeah.
But also if you wanted to pay more attention, there was actually a lot more visual cues. And, you know, the director used a lot of what a director should. Visuals and, you know, each scene, each shot tells you something. So if you wanted to be more into it and analyze the characters more, you could.
Yes.
But you also could kind of back away from it and just get the story.
Yeah. You can be surface level or you can go deeper.
Yeah.
That was The Stranger.
Right. It
was
was
the
Stranger.
last one that we talked about. And I think this is very much the same.
Okay.
User Ellen S. I prefer this type of series that ends in 8 episodes you can binge watch and not have to wait a year for another season. It's a must see if you're a fan of mindless thrillers. Which I'm like, that's fair.
Okay. Yeah.
That's fair. It's a thriller that you really enjoy it in the moment and you're not really going to remember it all that much later. And that's kind of okay.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Tracy P., don't waste your time, convoluted and implausible. Really, it's terrible. It's not terrible, but it is convoluted and implausible. She's not wrong. She's not wrong. I'm not watching this for plausibility.
Oh, yeah.
I got
Suspend your disbelief.
I got plenty of plausibility.
There are different shows for that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then Shane K. had an observation that I absolutely agree with and is my biggest point of contention for this whole thing. Overall, there are far too many unnecessary twists and turns. They're fun. It's ridiculous that the main characters live in the same place they did 17 years ago and yet have never bumped into each other. And that is probably my biggest thing, is because she like disappeared, but she lives like, it seems like she lives like 2 blocks away from where she did before.
Oh,
I mean, really.
like she didn't quite go all the way. Like,
right. Well, and I'm thinking about it and I'm like, well, if you moved from the north side of San Antonio to the south side of San Antonio, you could really, but these towns seem a little smaller than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so IndieWire didn't like it either.
Oh.
No. Tambay Benson. The geography isn't adequately defined. It's unclear whether she simply changed her name and moved a few streets over, or another borough, or another jurisdiction, or city, or even country. Now, I would say you can tell that it's not really all that far because there's driving back to places they used to go to in a relatively short amount of time.
Okay.
It's not like days of travel to get back to these places.
Right.
But the geography not adequately defined. I'll agree with that.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned all this. I think a lot of people actually just try to start over in their own town, though. People don't want to just leave.
No.
They just want a fresh start. So they kind of change up their name. They change up their, and they just kind of, I think that's actually probably more common than we realize, that people don't just start over by like leaving everything behind.
Right. Well, but the way they made it sound was like she thought she was unfindable.
Yeah.
Like, if you were unfindable, you'd have moved to the south of France.
Right. Like,
not like a suburb over.
Yeah, right.
You didn't move from downtown to the suburbs to like
become like lost.
Yeah. Decider liked it a bit better.
Okay.
Coben, who adapted his novel for the series, gives just enough clues in the first episode to tantalize viewers without frustrating them.
Okay.
Fair. Stay Close benefits from the fine performances and a story that gives just enough clues to keep the viewers intrigued and, more importantly, not frustrated with purposely obtuse writing.
Okay.
Which, that's a style thing with the Harlen Coben sets of shows based on his novels. That is, you're not quite sure how all these people are related to one another in the first episode, but you know that they are because they're all there.
Yeah.
It's purposely obtuse, and then it drills down. It's always this cone-shaped sort of situation. And I thought the ending was great. I didn't see it coming. It was super fun. Like, I watched through the whole 8 episodes, and I did not see it coming. It was good. So with that, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Is It True? Psychology Break in Real Life.
So here's how it works. Christy wrecks her search history. Hey, an essay. We promise it's nothing more nefarious than a podcast. To find out what's true, some of the psychological motivations behind the characters' actions, and real-life applications that relate to our topic. I have no idea what Christy decided to look up. Could be the same thing that captured my curiosity or something I never thought of.
Is it true? Can I visit Ridgewood, where all the characters call home?
Okay, I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess that there is a town that it's based on, but it's not called Ridgewood.
Nope. Not really. Not really. So it was filmed all over in different places in England: Blackpool, Liverpool, Manchester. The town of Ridgewood is fictional. It was, parts of it were loosely based on Atlantic City in New Jersey.
Oh, because of the original.
Because the whole like stripper dancer club situation.
Okay.
There is a club called Vipers, which when Tambay Benson from IndieWire was reviewing, he took issue with it, that it was a little too on the nose. Because vipers, and there's women being victimized by men. And he was like, it's a little on the nose for, a strip/dance club.
Yeah.
So it seemed more like it was, she was the stripper, but they didn't strip every night. It was like there were nights when people would strip and nights when it was just a club.
Like,
and
okay.
they were like go-go dancers.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of
I
a
see.
combination of them. But you can't go to Vipers either because it's not real. It was filmed in 2 locations. All of the interior scenes were in the basement of a Manchester nightclub called Impossible. And the exterior scenes were filmed outside of a club that's closed down.
Okay.
So the interior and the exterior, they seem to go really smoothly together, but they're 2 different places.
Well done, directors.
Yeah, I thought so. But there was this pier. There's this whole pier with a big Ferris wheel and lots of like exciting sorts of nightlife. Okay. It's not called Ridgewood.
Right.
But it is called Blackpool.
Okay.
And it is a real place that you can go. So all of these things are pretty fun. It's the only British beach resort to have 3 piers.
Okay.
So that's kind of good. They call it the Golden Mile.
All right.
Yeah.
That sounds like a fun, like vacay.
Yeah. And it's free. All the stuff costs,
Right.
to go and do it, but you don't have to pay like an entrance fee.
Right.
So that's kind of fun. And it's open all year. So in one of the first scenes, somebody puts their finger in a drink. And the nail polish changes color.
Okay. And it's supposed to detect if there's the date rape drug in it.
Yes.
That exists.
Not really.
Oh, no.
They tried really hard to make it, but they didn't quite do it.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah. So Bustle had an article about it. Gosh, this was a sobering statistic. This article, anti-drink spiking nail polish could become a real product after this Netflix show. This came out in January, this article. It was reported that 2,600 young people believe they had been spiked while on nights out since the start of the academic year in September of 2021. So in the US, between September 2021 and when this article came out in January of 2022, 2,600 people believe that they had been roofied, basically, that reported it.
That reported, I was about to say, that's got to be like a very low number because that's of those who figured it out and who then was willing to report it, which means that number is...
That's
pretty
way
low.
low. That's like 2
Way
to
low.
5%.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Somebody does stick their finger and then we see the fluorescent yellow nail polish turn black or like a maroon. It's really dark color. It goes from bright yellow to a dark color. Somebody said on the internet, I'm watching Stay Close on Netflix and apparently they have nail polish in the UK that allows women to test if a man has spiked their drink with a mind blown emoji. But unfortunately, it does not exist.
Because I remember ads about this and I remember some buzz about this. So where is it?
All right. So there was a group called Undercover Colors.
Okay.
And they raised a bunch of money to try and develop this.
Okay.
Like millions. Yeah, millions to try and develop this. And they just found that it wasn't reliable enough as a nail polish to actually be able to make it happen. They spent so much money trying to figure out if they could do this. And they just couldn't. But we'll talk more about that a little later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Ray, the photographer, the first time we see him, he's pretending to be a paparazzi for a bat mitzvah or a bar mitzvah.
Okay.
And and the rich teenager is cruel to him. But you can hire paparazzis. You can hire photographers to come and be a paparazzi for you, which is basically what he was. This kid wasn't famous. He just wanted to feel famous for a few hours. And so they hired paparazzi to come. So depending on...
Wow.
Yeah. Depending on where you live and how many photographers you want and how long you want them to follow you. Is it just a red carpet thing, or is it, they're chasing you around town for a day, or you can do all of this. Our obsession with celebrity is a little insane.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
I mean,
think.
like it's to make you seem more important. And so hopefully you end up causing it. Like, right? Fake it till you make it kind of thing.
It's some of it. Now, what it was in the show was more of I'm going to pretend to be famous. This is my special day. So I'm going to have the paparazzi so I can play act and sort of, cosplay being famous at my own party. So that kind of thing would be a few $100s.
Okay.
You can hire them to like chase you around, and some actors have done that where they hire paparazzi to specifically want pictures of them at an event that they're going to try and get the real paparazzi to take photos of them and try and sell it. So that it would try and create the buzz that they're doing. And that would be a bit more. That tends to be several photographers.
Right.
They might charge you upwards of $2,500 for that kind of service where they chase you around the city and try and get pictures of you. But it's a thing.
I wonder if anybody's ever used it to actually discourage other paparazzi. Like maybe, hire several, because if they're up front and they're the ones that are hired, maybe they get front line. It kind of pushes the sleazeballs back a little bit. Like, cause you hire, you know what I'm saying? Like,
you don't seem to like this idea. You seem to not approve. I'm like, for the 13-year-old, that's fine, whatever. But
yeah, but it's such a false impression. Like, it's just, I don't know. I guess the cosplay, but
it really was like a cosplay sort of situation for the young, spoiled child. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's
so the ladies are having a bachelorette party for Megan. Very exciting. But of course, they're no longer young women in their 20s having a bachelorette party. They've decided that they're too sophisticated for strippers.
Okay.
So they have a Pinot and Pecs party where they drink wine and they have a gentleman who is unclothed modeling for them, and then they paint pictures, but they don't have an instructor or anything. It's just a bunch of easels and paint and wine and a pretty man standing there while they laugh. Well, I can't find that Pinot and Pecs is real, but there are a number of pop-up painting parties. So
we've done one.
Yeah. We've done them, gone to them. Yeah. And I guess if you really wanted to, you could ask them to help facilitate that sort of situation. I'm sure that for the right price, they'd be happy.
Anything.
Yeah, they'd be happy to help you out, but there isn't one that's specifically Pinot and Pecs.
Well, hey, here it is, world. Have it.
I don't know. Is there enough demand for that?
I think so.
You think?
I do.
Oh.
I think so.
I think that's a lot of work to set up a very niche business.
I don't know. I do see that women would probably just do it for fun.
Yeah, some men might too. You got to realize, you also have, not just women are going to want to look at men. There are men who also might want to look at men.
Now, let me ask you a question, because I didn't see it. How unclothed?
Like he had underwear on.
Okay, so not that kind of peck.
Yeah, no.
All right. We're talking about
not in the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think that would go like wildfire. Really? Something where it's just a little salacious, a little erotic, but doesn't cross the line into something that they, feel uncomfortable about.
Right.
I think that kind of thing would kind of take off.
That's fair. I do think an instructor would be helpful because you see her picture. She took her picture home. Like she takes a cab home and she takes her picture out with her and brings it in the house, and it is not good. Some instruction would have been helpful.
That probably should be good. Instruction.
All right, so Megan gets home.
Okay.
After her bachelorette party. And she finds a bottle of champagne and a card on her porch. oh, how nice. She goes and opens it. She picks up the envelope, and it does not have Megan written across it. It has Cassie written across it, which is her name from her previous life. Yes, which her husband or her soon-to-be husband doesn't know anything about.
Why? Why keep this secret? Why do that?
Well, she was afraid for her life. She thought that somebody thought she might have either killed somebody or somebody would want revenge for a man who died. This guy, Stuart Green, who is peppered throughout this whole first episode. They talk about him, but you don't really see him except in flashbacks.
See, I got problems with this. Because if you can't tell the partner about that and know that they're your ally, why are you partnered?
Okay. I really think it was I'm not going to tell him about this because one, I don't want to endanger him. And also she was leaving that part of herself behind. She was reinventing herself.
Yeah, that doesn't work, by the way.
No, it doesn't. We'll get there.
You can't do that. All right. Okay. Moving on.
We'll get to that. Anyway, so she sees this. She's all freaked out.
Okay. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I would be as well. And so she goes in to look at the footage from the cameras to try and see if she can figure out who put this on her porch.
Yeah.
And her fiance comes down and is like, why haven't you come to bed? So she blames it on the booze blues. Which I'm like, booze blues? I've literally never heard of this.
Okay, what's that?
But it's a thing. sofeminine.co.uk. Alcohol depression, how to get over the post-boozing blues. So the booze blues is a thing that happens. I guess I've just never experienced it. But it can deplete your feel-good neurotransmitters. Dr. George F. Coben has found that drinking reduces our levels of serotonin and dopamine. So you might feel sad after overindulging. Some people do. And I guess it's a common enough experience.
It has a name.
That it's called the booze blues.
Okay.
And if you want to fight those, you can eat some carbs.
Oh, that always helps.
Yeah.
I mean, always.
It'll boost your serotonin levels.
There you go.
Drink lots of water.
Yeah.
Doing something to make yourself feel accomplished that's not too taxing can help. So like do a load of laundry. That load of laundry you've been leaving there can you can feel accomplished, but it's not very taxing.
How long does this last and when does it start? I guess I'm confused.
I guess it's like when you start to not be drunk anymore. And then you
so
feel
this is
sad
if
while
you're drunk
you're
thing, and then like coming down from that, or up from that, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it can last for how long?
I think like a day.
I'm like, go to bed.
Yeah.
Well, just go to bed.
Yeah, but like when you get up and you're hungover, you have the booze blues.
I see.
So
Okay, that's what question was.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So she was saying she didn't go to bed right away because she had the booze blues because she was starting to be hungover already.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So there's Michael, who's a detective.
All right.
Okay. And then his partner is Aaron, who's a detective. And they seem to have this like fun banter. They get along well.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that in a show.
Yeah, I do too. And then you find out that they're divorced.
Okay.
That they were married and now they're divorced. So I'm like,
fun. Okay.
Do people do this?
I think they probably do. I'm going to guess that they do.
Yeah, you're right.
Because some people are just better divorced.
Yes. That's true. Mediate.com has a whole article about it, about why people might want to do this. That maybe they just love their job. They couldn't earn as much money somewhere else. They've spent a lot of time as a couple building whatever. If it's a brand, they're building their brand together. Maybe you just don't want to walk away from that.
Yeah.
And so it's really not all that uncommon of an occurrence. Now, probably most of them wouldn't be quite so familiar, whereas they're detective partners and continue to work that way. I would think the police department would be like,
yeah, that's a little close.
That's a little too much. But I could also see somebody saying, look, we already have this good relationship. We're not getting divorced because of, a lot of animosity.
Right.
We're just not good as a married couple. Mm-hmm. But we can still be partners.
Right.
I could see that working and neither one of them wanting to give up I mean, a detective is a position that you work hard for.
Oh, yeah.
It takes a lot of preparation and skill and time to put into it. So I could see them not
I can see that.
Yeah. And then somebody from Megan's old life tracked her down, a lady named Lorraine, who worked at Vipers, we come to find out. And she's the one who left the bottle of champagne and the note.
So it was kind of a sweet thing.
No,
maybe.
No, she was looking for the drama.
Oh,
it was very much a looking for the drama sort of situation. But when she first tracks her down, she finds her at a tennis tournament.
Okay.
And of course, it's one of her children is playing tennis and they're watching the tennis tournament.
Okay.
And, you know, they've got very funny scenes where everybody's watching
doing
the back and forth with the head. And it's really quiet.
Yeah.
And then she realizes there's somebody not watching the ball, that this woman is just looking right at her. That's the first time you see Lorraine. And she's less nefarious than you think she might be. But I was like, why are they so quiet? So Atlas Obscura had this like whole huge article about tennis and the history, and that it's not an actual official rule that you have to be quiet, but it's kind of the expected norm, which is kind of interesting. And it probably dates back to early tennis where it was played on a smaller court. It was very much a elite sort of situation happening there. And because it was all enclosed, if the audience was loud, it was too loud to really concentrate well.
Right.
And so it's kind of, they think, probably a holdover from that. And that it's also the idea that the people playing tennis were aristocrats and they were being watched by fellow aristocrats. And so there was until relatively recently, it was an all amateur sport. That it was just a thing that like people went and did at the country club. And that it wasn't until the past few decades that it became like a sport that people wanted to watch.
People are now, because it's like now you're a fan. You're not just there. It's not entertainment for you anymore.
Right.
You're a fan and you're like rooting for someone.
Yeah. But before that, it was like be quiet while they serve because I don't want to mess up my friend.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the whole situation. It's a fascinating article about why everybody's quiet at a tennis tournament.
That's interesting.
Yeah. All of the sources that we use to inform our discussion here on Killer Fun Podcast can be found on our social media. Join us on Facebook at Killer Fun Podcast, exploring the intersection of crime and entertainment. You can find us on Twitter at Killer Fun Pod, or you can send us an email at killerfunpodcast@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to share a link to whatever information you're looking for. We love to hear from you. You might learn a little something too. All right, psychology break.
Okay, psychology break. Let's do it.
Why did Cassie abandon her whole life to become Megan? We kind of see that there was this man, Stuart Green, was obsessed with her and she didn't feel safe. The social identity theory might help us understand her a little better.
I love this theory.
I thought you might. Simplypsychology.org has a whole article about it. Henry Tashfel? Is that how you say it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Henry Tashfel's greatest contribution to psychology was the social identity theory, is a person's sense of who they are based on their group memberships, which was super interesting. And I thought this made sense. So when Megan was Cassie, she categorized herself a certain way.
Yeah.
And she was a dancer. She was a performer. She was a stripper. She was an entertainer. And when all of that made her start to feel unsafe, she was seeking to change that categorization. So she went the polar opposite. Soccer mom, professional woman, no longer in the public eye, really in any way. So then she had a social identification. So while she was happy being a dancer, she was fine to identify socially with dancers. Ray, the photographer, was played a part in that. And that was fine. And then once she no longer felt safe, she changed her group that she was identifying with. And so your self-esteem can be bound up in your group.
It is.
So
it's people, even if you think it's not.
Right.
It is.
It is.
I mean, it's a facet. It's not all or nothing, right? But it is. I mean, we identify ourselves not only by what we think of ourselves, but what others think about us, and then how we feel about how others think about us.
Right.
And this is the web that is social identity theory.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and so she felt seen when she was a performer and had a little bit of notoriety as a performer, which again, like, how do you expect to just disappear when you've got notoriety as a performer?
Yeah.
But we're going to suspend our disbelief with that. And wasn't so concerned what people thought about her in-group.
Right.
And then once she no longer felt safe, she started thinking, oh, well, the out-group, what they think of my in-group, maybe that's more accurate than I realized. And so suddenly she starts to feel bad about herself.
Right.
For being a dancer. Yep. And then social comparison is the final aspect of that. So she was comparing a group that she was in, dancers, to a group that now she wanted to be in and was maybe looked down on dancers, or at least her perception was they looked down on dancers.
Right.
So she wanted to be this suburbanite person who would look down on a dancer. So now she's going to completely deny it. That's why I think why she felt like her transformation wasn't complete unless she did not tell this man she started dating and would end up being engaged to 16 years later.
Yeah.
About it, because she was trying to completely change what group she was in.
Yeah, and it's just not realistic.
No, of course it's not.
It's not realistic at all, because you bring a piece of that into the new place. But if you really want to have belonging and be seen and have a community, then honesty with people at discretion. Not everybody needs to know that. But maybe your partner does.
Right, yes.
Your partner, maybe a couple of trusted friends in the inner circle, because you have circles of social interaction, and that your labels broaden,
well, particularly if it's going to put your partner possibly at physical risk.
Yeah, you don't ever protect somebody by lying to them. Just FYI. Like, you want to protect somebody, let them know. Give them a heads up.
Yeah.
Like, if you actually want to protect them, give them the heads up and the option to leave.
Oh, but see, this is where her self-esteem was too tied up in it. She thought he would judge her and not want to be with her. She told him the truth. And the further away she got from that past that she hadn't told him the truth about,
the further it felt
it felt further away, the harder it was to tell him.
Yeah. And that's just not a good idea.
I mean, no.
It's just not a good idea.
It's not, but
Yeah.
So there's kind of she did do some manipulation because she was not honest about her identity with her spouse. And there's a certain amount of manipulation that goes on just in human life as far as identity goes, because we kind of tell children what they are to start with.
Yeah.
Not because we don't want them to deny who they are if they're someone different.
Right.
But they don't have any framework with which to build their life and identity on. So we kind of give them something. And then, they hopefully you also give them that, but also give them the chance to break free of that.
Right.
So there's a certain amount of manipulation that goes along with identity. And I thought that was really clear in the relationship between Megan and her fiance, Dave. And it was interesting and also troubling in a way, but you can read more about that at Psychology Today. And then I know where else to put this.
Okay.
So I put it in Psychology Break.
All right, hit it.
So Megan jokes she's got a child who's 15, 16-ish.
Okay.
Somewhere a mid to older teenager, you know. And she jokes that she's going to have to text with her daughter in order to get her attention.
Okay.
And USA Today had an article about how that actually might not be a bad technique for some families.
Yeah.
That it's actually can be really good rather than yelling for your family members to come for dinner or whatever. You text them and they can come and it's a little more calm. And they talk about how it's like a modern day intercom. And it can also kind of give you a layer to talk about things that might be difficult to talk about face to face that are easier for them to write down, particularly for teenagers.
Particularly.
Yeah. So they used to do this. I knew families who would do this where if they had a difficult conversation that they were going to have, they'd go take a drive.
Right.
Because they could look forward, but because there wasn't a parent staring at the kid.
Right. They could.
The child felt freer to be able to talk about things.
Yeah.
Or a child might talk about things that were as a friend is going to do this.
Yes.
And, but really they're talking about themselves. Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Texting gets a bad rap. I mean, we get into saying like, don't text important things because text can just be taken so wrong and da-da-da. And yeah, it's true a little bit. The emojis help.
Yeah.
But actually, I think what we're really upset about is that our actual intentions came through and we got called out for it.
Right.
When we text something and somebody's like, that was really mean. And they're like, well, it was just text. Maybe you're really defensive because it was.
Yeah, it really meant
Would you say that to their face?
Right.
If you wouldn't, then it wasn't the text that was wrong.
Right.
You just felt freer to be uglier.
Right.
Sometimes that's the case. But we have to remember, we are into texting now, and we're like, oh, you can't just text or email. That's not how important things are discussed. And I'm
Yes,
like,
they are.
Letters? Have we not heard of letters?
I mean, let's be honest. If I have important things to discuss with a company, I want it all in writing.
Writing. And I want to pour it out and get it right. Like it gives me an opportunity to double check myself and make sure that I'm communicating really clearly. I think we've just gotten lazy with words to begin with.
Fair.
And sometimes the written word saves us the trouble of our very convoluted body language, which that can come across really wrong.
Yes.
We think body language tells us more about the story, and it may not.
It may, but it may not.
Like, I probably look uncomfortable a lot. It's not the conversation. I have a bad back.
Right.
But if we're in a heated discussion, I might look like I'm really just and dismissive when actually I'm just adjusting.
Right.
That can be, and that's very true across the board, which is why you have to be very careful with reading body language or reading facial expressions. Whereas in texting, you have to choose it.
Yeah. Edward Beig, who wrote this article, had interviewed somebody, Dr. Pamela Rutledge, and she had a nice observation. My kids send me pictures of their cats. That's nice because what it's really telling you is that they're thinking about you. It's not about the cat mostly. What we don't talk about, those silly things, is that they make us feel more connected. So it can also be kind of a temperature taking. So of your relationship with your kids. This is how they're primarily talking with their friends and their peers. Then if they're also talking to you that way, that's probably how means that they feel more connected to you. Yeah. So I send a morning meme to my family every morning. And if I forget, my youngest will ask for it sometimes.
That's great.
And I'm like, oh, that's good. That makes me feel pretty good about things.
Yes.
Which is good because I often don't feel good about things. Well, only just because, life's complicated. Parenting's hard. We're coming out of a pandemic. Not that we're out of the pandemic, but we're emerging back into society. And these poor children. All right. Real life.
All right.
So we talked about that nail polish.
Yes.
Okay. So the same company, Undercover Colors, Okay. Came up with something called the sip chip when they realized they couldn't make the nail polish work.
Okay.
They have these little chips that you can take, and they have a little key fob or a phone holder that you can get and fit several sip chips in. You put a drop of your drink on it, and it detects most common date rape drugs, including roofies, Xanax, and Valium, in somewhere between 30 seconds and 3 minutes with 99.3% accuracy.
Okay.
So this is what they came up with.
So you have to have
it, and then you put a drop of your drink on it and wait for it to react. Okay. And if it's, 2 lines, you're fine. If it's 1 line, it detected something, don't drink that drink.
Okay.
So now, of course, that means you can't just take a drink from somebody
and like nonchalantly.
Yeah, it's a little harder to do it, but it's accurate. Unfortunately, these seem to be out of stock at the moment. So,
I always taught just don't take a drink from anyone.
You
don't
take it from the bartender.
Bartender only, and you never set your drink down.
Yeah.
Don't turn away from you. That's why you have to get used to holding it and walking with it and
dancing with it.
Or finish your drink, go dance, then go order a new drink, sit, have a drink, and only take it from the bartender. And if somebody wants to send you a drink, it better come through the bartender.
Right.
Every time.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that that's what you have to do. But
it is.
But if you thought the way the nail polish looked when it changed color was fun, you can do that.
Oh,
that's a thing you can do.
True.
So it might not be able to detect poison, but early in the quarantine, like in the spring of 2020, these thermochromatic nail polishes became a thing where they would change color and they're like, it's particularly fun when you're washing your hands, 54 times a day. Yeah. You wash it in warm water or cold water and your nails will change color.
That sounds fun, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I think it
might have
fun
to try that.
Yeah, and it goes on just like normal polish, but they do have some things you need to be warned about.
Okay.
That the color of polish you see when you have it in the bottle is going to be different than what it is on your nails, because the bottle's at room temperature and your nails are at body temperature.
Right.
So it's going to be a little different. And they said, grow out your nails to have, if you can. Yeah, unlike me, I cannot
do that.
I can't grow out my nails. They just don't. They split and break, and whatever. But that can be a way to have a little more fun with it.
Yeah.
And know that they have a shorter shelf life.
Okay.
So we call parties for a bride who's about to get married a bachelorette party, and I've referred to them as a bachelorette party up until now in this.
Okay.
But in the show, they called them a hen party.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It's a hen party.
That's
normal for British.
Okay.
People would call. They would
call hen party.
A bachelor party, a stag party,
a stag party.
Okay. And a woman's equivalent would be a hen party. So I'm like, well,
like
that's
chicken.
Well, that's why I was like, chickens, like. Hens, like, okay. And VogueBallroom.com had an article specifically about why it's called a hen party.
Okay.
And that it's actually, if you look at the Middle English etymology of the word, it's less about a chicken and more about the female of any type of bird.
Okay.
They would all be, the female of a bird would be a hen.
So still a bird.
But, or even the female gender of any animal.
Okay.
Most commonly birds, but any animal could be referred to as a hen.
Okay.
In Middle English. Not so much now. And that stag would refer to the male of a species.
Right. Okay.
So we would hear stag and think of deer.
Yeah, we would.
Yeah. But it could have been
that's interesting.
Any of those. And that those it really didn't become popular until like the 1960s and 70s for hen parties and stag parties. Now they would have had things earlier than that would have been showers for women.
Okay.
It would have been like bridal showers, basically. They might have called those hen parties.
Okay.
And that stag parties, bachelor parties would have dated back to like the Spartans in the 5th century BC, where they would celebrate their last night of, yes. They've been doing it a lot longer.
Yeah, because the men would be celebrating and the women would be consoling.
Yes.
Let me go straight to the patriarchy there. All right.
So 16 years is a long time to be with somebody before you get married. Yeah. So Brides has an article about the average length of a relationship before marriage.
Okay.
Now it's gotten significantly longer in the past 40 or so years. People are getting married older,
right?
Which makes sense. You know, you're together longer, you're going to be older. That like in 1970, most men got married at about 23, most women got married at about 21, and now it's men at almost 30 and women at 28. So it's much longer, but most couples before they get engaged are dating for 2 to 5 years.
Okay.
And then an engagement typically lasts 12 to 18 months.
Yeah.
Those are averages. So, of course, some people get married sooner. Some people have quicker weddings. But generally, people are not just getting married right away.
Nope.
Yeah, I think that we're coming out of that idea of the purity culture a little bit too, as that's starting to fall away. Where there's the opportunity, it's much more socially acceptable for people to live together before they get married. Make sure that they're compatible before they make this commitment. Yeah. A 2017 study by Pew Research found that about half of the adults aged 18 to 29 cited financial instability for a reason that they weren't getting married.
Yeah, I've heard that this was a growing concern, but it makes sense because it's also one of the top reasons for divorce.
Yes, the financial instability and just even if you're not looking at like living your life, how much does it cost to have a wedding? And can your family afford to pay for it? Or are you going to pay for it on your own? If you're going to pay for it on your own, the average cost of a wedding ceremony in 2018 was $45,000.
Yeah, and see, that's very interesting. It's interesting to me that we've pushed back and then we've cited these reasons why we don't want to get married, and then we've kind of dismantled so much, but when we get married, we still want to throw that big wedding as if that's the main part of getting married.
Right. Yeah, no.
Most people plan far more for a wedding than they do a marriage.
That is
it's
truth.
Interesting to me that we haven't gotten by that. Like that people who are dating for a long time haven't decided, you know what, we can get married and have a party when we can afford it.
I think that's getting better.
Yeah,
I think that's changing, especially in the pandemic when we have fewer people. We can't have these big parties like we used to. You know, you don't want to have people coming in from all over the country and maybe making grandma sick.
Right.
You know, I mean,
you're right. Maybe that will change things.
And people are realizing how important it is to have a consistent, safe home to live in. Yeah. It can be difficult to afford, but when you have a pandemic and you have lockdown, you need to have somewhere you can live and call a home base.
Right.
So maybe let's shift our money from paying for a big party to celebrate our wedding, which is perfectly valid. And if it's a thing you want to do, absolutely. But maybe shift that. The focus is maybe shifting away from that a little bit and more towards these stable sort of living situations.
Yeah, like the marriage. Like, like, yes, yes. Let's celebrate marriage. Okay, I guess what I'm trying to say is don't let a wedding stop you from the marriage.
Right.
Allow your life to go forward. Be married, make the vow, have a beautiful time, invite a few people. Don't spend a whole bunch of money. Go downtown. But then if you want to plan for the big wedding ceremony where you do the whole thing, I mean, I get that, but I mean, I get that you can't afford it either.
So what are the most common reasons that people will change their identity?
Oh, do I guess?
Sure.
I think I'm going to go with leaving leaving old life of like crime or bad decisions behind.
Yeah. Escaping debt and escaping gang life.
Okay.
Are both things
That's
that would fall into that category. Probably even more common than that is escaping an awful or abusive relationship.
Yeah, that would have been on my list.
And then this is from changeidentity.net, by the way. They also list witness protection, which I was like, which also kind of goes in with the I'm leaving behind my bad decisions and poor life.
Maybe. Depends on what kind of witness you are.
Right.
I mean, you might be a witness that just witnessed something, and for your own protection, you literally...
Right. I would say...
most of the time, it's somebody who flipped.
Yeah, somebody... Yeah, exactly. And so I was curious as to how many people had been in witness protection.
Oh, interesting. Yes.
Because I was really... And now, of course... What does this have to do with stay close? Not much. I'm honest. But it's my thought process.
It's tangentially related.
That's right. So in the U.S., from 1971 to 2020, there were about 19,000 people who had participated in witness protection. Oh, you say that like that's a lot. I thought that was not that much.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot. I don't know.
And I thought that was like, well, that's only about less than 400 people a year.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like very many. I mean, for as much as we see it in entertainment stuff,
we
right?
love it in the entertainment, right?
We love it. Because of course, but when I think about changing your whole identity, you know what I think about mostly is Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Well, yeah.
And that was, not state sanctioned.
No, that was a different kind of witness protection.
Yeah.
Yes.
But, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. All right. This one I mostly included because of the Google search when I found it.
Oh, no.
So it's difficult to disappear completely. It's not impossible. And there's a book that kevevans.com reviewed. It talks about things that you can do, finding identities to overtake and, to be able to have the correct paper trail. But when I did the Google search, all that came up as the title of this particular blog post was How to Disappear Completely and Never Be Found by Doug.
What?
Like you were trying to never be found by Doug. Now it cut off the guy's last name. Doug Richmond wrote the book. How to Disappear Completely and Never Be Found.
Who's Doug? Why do we need to hide from him?
I laughed out loud. How to never be found by Doug. Who's Doug and why are we hiding from him? No, Doug just wrote this book, which is maybe a little sketchy.
From now on, we're going to be like, Doug's after me.
That's right.
Beware of Doug.
Beware of Doug.
We can make t-shirts. Beware of Doug.
Oh. So, but, they talked about like using the identities of war buddies, childhood friends, headstones, looking through newspapers, because birth and death records, at least in the U.S., are not particularly well correlated. So you can use the identity of somebody who died and people might not know it.
People wouldn't figure it out.
My dad wonders that all the time because I had a brother who passed away as a child. Yeah. And my dad's probably twice a year. I'll be like, I always wonder if somebody's using his identity. And he never seems particularly bothered by it. He never seems like, I hope nobody's using his identity. It's always kind of I wonder if anybody's doing that.
That is such an interesting thought. Yeah. We watched a movie that kind of did that, right? Where they would sell, you could sell your identity when you're dying to somebody who needed
Gattaca.
Gattaca, yes. Like where he was
because it was all the genetics. They did all the blood testing.
Did all the Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you wanted to have a different life than what your genetics said you could have,
There was a black market for
yes,
doing that. Yeah. And I feel like we watched something else that was kind of similar where you could sell your current, it wasn't fingerprint or anything like that. You could just literally sell your identity.
I don't remember. Maybe,
And
probably
disappear or something. I don't remember, but that's interesting.
Yeah.
You could lease for what if that's like a life insurance policy? Like, okay, I have a good, it's like donating your organs. I have a good paper trail. So I'm going to sell my identity to someone who would like to continue in my life with my paper trail. And then that money goes to my family as an insurance policy, right?
Ooh,
that'd be an interesting movie. That doesn't exist. It's not real. No. Just making sure.
I mean, maybe it does, but don't do it.
Maybe it does. Oh my gosh.
Maybe it does, but
Don't
maybe
do it.
Don't.
But do make a movie about it. It'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be fun. We'll watch it. We'll talk about it on the show. Yeah. All right. So the last thing, I want to end on something a little fun and funny. So characters that disappear.
Oh.
So let's talk about some television show characters who just disappeared without a trace.
Okay, yes, this is good. I'm excited to see what's on this list. We're not talking about replacements, right? Like not a Darren situation.
No, not like Darren in Bewitched. Yeah, they replaced it, the actor.
Right.
No, they just kind of disappeared.
Just gone. Okay.
Like, so Ben Geller from Friends, Ross's son.
Yeah, like Ben, like what happened to Ben?
Like once Emma was born.
Like we don't ever see them.
I mean, we literally never see him again. And they hardly talk about him.
Right.
Hardly. Like he just disappeared. They forgot. And I guess there's all kinds of fan theories about he lost custody, even partial custody of his son and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, man.
But anyway, so there's a character named Scott Rossen on Gossip Girl.
Okay.
And he was two of the main characters. Their parents had been involved in a relationship, Serena and Dan. Dan was played by Penn Badgley.
Oh, okay. That's this.
So
okay, I'm connecting it now.
Yeah. And their parents had dated, and then Dan and Serena end up dating. And then you find out later that their parents had had a child together that they'd given up for adoption.
Oh.
And it was Scott Rossen, and he shows up and is there, and Serena and Dan said they want to have this relationship with him, and you literally never hear his name again.
That's funny.
In New Girl, Jess, one of the main characters, has a sister named Abby, and she shows up and then is never mentioned again. Doesn't go to her wedding, nothing.
Oh, geez. See, that's weird. Okay.
Kathy Sims from The Office. Okay. She totally wanted to get with Jim, and they kind of casually mentioned that she stayed in Florida, but she just disappears. It's a one-off line. Oh, Kathy stayed in Florida. And if you'd be like, what happened to this character who was a central storyline for several episodes? They just don't address it. And then in that 70s show, there's a character named Donna. Yeah. And she has a sister, Tina. Oh. She's there for a couple of episodes and then is just gone. And they literally refer to Donna as an only child later in the series. They didn't just... They literally forgot that they ever gave this character a sister. Oops.
Our bad.
Oops.
Continuity fail.
Yep, exactly. Which is why, they should have a Bible. And, if you're making a show, try and remember that if it becomes a cult favorite, people are going to pick all of it apart.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to watch it.
Continuity is important.
Yes.
But it's okay. We still love those shows.
Exactly. Well, and I've noticed that it's different now than it used to be. That now that we can binge watch shows.
Oh, right.
Those continuity fails are a lot more prevalent than they used to be. Yeah. And I would say The Office did a pretty good job because I know they had a whole show Bible where they tried to keep track of stuff. They weren't always perfect. But then I'll be watching Golden Girls.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot of
continuity fails. There's a lot of continuity fails where I'm like, Well, but Rose said she's adopted, but she talks about like
She makes the mistake of using her married name as her parents,
right,
in one episode.
Yes.
And they didn't correct that.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, well, whatever. It's such a delightful
And
show.
it happens to be when she's talking about being adopted. And she says,
Right.
Nyland was not no, you were adopted by the Lindstroms.
Right.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
They make some mistakes, and we forgive it because it's
do.
delightful. But
do.
I forgive it in the 80s a bit more than I forgive it in the 2020s. So if you're making a series, have your Bible.
Yeah.
Get it right.
Get it right.
You have spreadsheets and things that you can search and put stuff in and get it right. So get it right.
Yeah, you can get it right.
Yeah, you can get it right. All right. So next time,
Yes.
we're going to give old Harlen Coben another chance.
Yes.
We're not going to become a Harlen Coben podcast. Don't worry.
No, but this is worth watching.
But this one has Michael C. Hall in it.
Yeah,
And
I've
it's-
already seen it.
Oh, have you seen all of it?
All of it.
Oh, okay. See, you're ahead of me. So I have not even finished the first episode yet. But
Okay, all right.
Michael C. Hall, just so you know, is doing a British accent.
You felt like you had to give the heads up.
I do because I tried to watch this
And you could not
and I was
stand it.
and I was just like, I need some time to sit with this because I don't know how I feel about Michael C. Hall with a British accent.
Dexter's not English.
And I know he's more than the one character.
I know, but we love him as Dexter.
Yes, for sure. So safe on Netflix next time. And until then, be safe, be kind, and wash your hands.
Da, da, da.